Good morning, everybody. Gird your loins. This is Lasha Rojenko, episode 3. And today is Friday, January the 31st of 2023. So if you've never been to this channel before, don't fast forward the line. I'm saving that part until the end. So if you want to find out the origin, intent, and goal of the channel, take the red line, slide it to 10 minutes toward the end, wherein I'll explain the non-donation charity through subscriptions only. No super thanks, no donations, nothing like that. However, I really thought that my situation, which represents, as far as what I've researched, a femur break does not turn into a surgeon breaking your knee in a femur operation. For those of you that have been on this channel, you know it's getting deeper. Okay, that's not just shadow. It's getting deeper. And I will talk about the WhatsApp groups I'm starting. I did conduct a short on that. So if you want to gain access to more information, oh my goodness, I forgot my professional jacket. If you could wait for me, it's 2 minutes and 4 seconds in. We're going over a lot today, but one of the things we are going to be talking about is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I'll be right back. You really don't want this to happen on the live. I know we're to be standing on a time bomb, so don't say no, 'cause if this world should blow, baby, love will be gone. Okay, thank you for waiting. So I left at 2 minutes and 6 seconds because I forgot my professional blazer. And that took me about 48 seconds. Okay, so welcome to High Voltage. I'll tell you this right from the get. If you're going to subscribe to this channel, please subscribe to the channel called High Voltage. It's a little bear up there. Yeah, I need to put something there. This isn't my usual studio. My mom's asleep upstairs, and I don't want to wake her. So, gird your loins, because we have a lot to talk about. Again, if you decide to subscribe, I'll type it here in the bottom chat. High Voltage, when you type in Lasha Rojenko, it's either at the top or the bottom. All right. I love my dog. Okay. This is episode 3 of Jordan Peterson and his benzodiazepine situation and the withdrawals. First of all, before I proceed, I am a certified PSW. I have a year of human resources at or from the British Columbia Institute of Technology, which is one of the most difficult polytechnical institutes to get into. While I was working as a center of attention, was that a Freudian slip about something? While I was getting paid basically the same as the center director, but I was the regional supervisor in Western Canada for Jenny Craig. And I have to say this right off the top, it's a cult, because I'll tell you, when I managed that region, I never considered it my region. Do you know how I would introduce myself when somebody said, "What do you do for a living?" That's the first question everybody always says. And to me, that's saying, so how much money do you make? Remember Nurse Jackie? I have one word for you, Cooper. Shotgun. All right. Jordan Peterson. Let's just move on. I have adult ADHD. Okay? Now, Lady Phoenix. That's right. Lady Phoenix is one of my subscriptions on this channel, and she has ADHD, adult ADHD, and she has her channel basically every day. Basically every day she's keeping track of her progress, providing tools to help people, and her channel is going to do very, very, very well. And it's a new channel. Mine's not a new channel. I started this channel, Lasha Rojenko, on March the 23rd of 2023. Then in April the 7th of 2024, I then started L&L Soul Sisters. And then from July until December, August, September, October, so 4.5 months later, I started High Voltage. And I changed the name 100 times. Forrest Gump, High Voltage, Lightning Lasha, Royal Pushback Aftermath. And with each channel, I started an Instagram account or a Facebook account. And with each Instagram account and Facebook account, if everybody who enjoyed my content on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook would subscribe to High Voltage, it's the same content that I put out on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And I do a lot of fun things as well. There'd be 6,000 people on this channel. Now, when I talk about subscriptions, I can't stand it when people say, help me get to 100K. But I'm telling you, please help this kid right here, get to monetization level. Because if you really go back on my videos, I would start, if you find this channel and you see me right now, go to High Voltage, start with popular shorts, popular videos. Start with those first to get an idea of how I have progressed as a content creator. I used to completely wing everything, and to some degree, in part, I still am. And the reason that I have ADHD, I always remember to go to my topics. That's why I keep this on. I was diagnosed, and this is about mental health awareness. I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, okay, in 2007. So 2007. And I was 38 in 2007. In and around there, because I don't want anybody to know my real age or too much about me, which is one of the competencies we'll be talking about in reference to leadership. Oh, there we go. There's what I put together for the visual today. It's way better. Okay, so let's get into Jordan Peterson and the hashtags that I put up. This is episode 3 in reference to Jordan Peterson, his benzodiazepine withdrawal, what I believe is true, what I believe in false. And keep in mind, the reason I told you that I have a PSW certificate and I practiced personal support care from the age of 2020 or from the age of 21 up until presently today, on and off, but for almost 10 years straight. And the minute that I woke up and I didn't want to change Doug's diapers, I quit, because that's human dignity. If you're a doctor, a surgeon, a nurse, a lawyer, and you get burnt out, that's the time to leave. I also wanted to say, speaking of burnt out, and speaking of Jordan Peterson, disinformation about benzodiazepines, 100%. He made it all about himself like a petulant child. I just thought of something. Having ADHD, I do have to keep track. I was talking about like burning topics and so on. Well, one of them was COVID, all right? And when I'm through going through Jordan Peterson's story and his okay, and he even really talks like he's somewhat constipated. I just made up my own language, but I think you all know what I mean. There's something like a silver spoon, you really must wake up in the morning and make your bed. I don't like Meghan Markle. She bothers me. Without a blink. Behavioral science is really interesting, and you don't need to watch. Okay, burning, burnout, COVID. There was a nurse, and I saw this on mainstream media television. And one of my other projects is I'm working on the average person's life. It's not going to bring this charity, non-donation charity up personal and close to everybody. However, I don't talk about Diddy or Jaguar or yada, 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 but I'll tell you what channels to go to find out any information you want, okay? So this nurse, actually, it was in Canada. She committed the desperation. She reached the desperation, and she attempted and she succeeded in her own, okay? And this, I believe, is the effects about disinformation. I know a woman who I worked for in Beamsville, whose mother passed away from COVID in 2020. And I asked her approximately a week ago, I said, if I'm crossing any boundaries, please tell me, how are you doing? When you graciously hired me, when you knew I was completely traumatized about my knee and the medical malpractice and the injustice. And I'll explain all of that at the end. You can find it all over my channel. There's breadcrumbs all over the place. Thank you for the person that liked this video. I appreciate that. But where I really need the likes is when I save this video to high voltage, it will say episode 3, Jordan Peterson, and I'll be doing an episode 4 because I'm running a bit long here. But yeah, I asked this gal, do you think that your mother's life would have been saved with a vaccine? And she said no. So as much as I disagree with Candace Owens about Trump and a lot of the ritualistic practices that go along with religions, I have a relationship with God. I know there's a God. I know there's a heaven. And if you believe in heaven, you believe in hell. Hence, these are why I have the hashtags. Hashtag Jordan Peterson, I'll be getting to that. I acronymed all of them. They're all acronyms. Trump, the Canadian College of Physicians of Ontario, Faith, Psychologists, Ontario, Disinformation, Lance Armstrong, and what does he and his being caught blood doping have to do with anything going on in the mainstream media? Well, the mainstream media doesn't really cover any of this. But I'll tell you what Lance Armstrong has to do with all of this. Behavior analysis, Candace Owens, I want to talk about Ask Not and JFK, RFK Jr., and why he should not be in the Trump administration. I also want to talk about what Trump is what he's doing to Canada. I'm going to read a passage of the Bible, share my diary this morning where I got my thoughts, and I'm going to summarize Jordan Peterson. And at the end, I'm going to explain the hours, the days, the loss of life, because a surgeon decided not to keep his oath. And it was a cover-up between a psychiatrist, the Royal Victoria Hospital, and a surgeon. And sounds crazy. I thought I was crazy. But my intuition, which is connected to the amygdala in your gamma receivers, which are your nerves, which have to do with benzodiazepines. So moving on from subject to subject to subject. All right. So go sub for me. You don't need to watch every day. If you don't want to see my mug every day, as I'm a short 1-minute video junkie. Oh yeah. There's 2,800 videos on this channel, and they're all saved and downloaded from L&L Soul Sisters and Lasha Rojenko onto High Voltage, which we're sitting at 784 and 91 on Lasha Rojenko, 306 on L&L Soul Sisters, which means we're really at 1,182 people have taken the time out of their lives to subscribe to Lasha Rojenko, but Doofa over here didn't put the channels together. I'm not going to say it again. It's January the 31st of 2025. Now that I've got out my ADHD, let's just get into Jordan Peterson and how what he said could have been a teaching moment to help people, but he made it about himself. And his daughter interviewed him about it. Of course, his daughter interviewed him about his benzodiazepine withdrawal. I take benzodiazepines. I have since 2007. And what kills me about it is it does affect your cognitive ability in some ways if you overuse them. And I'll tell you what really bothered me about Jordan Peterson. In episode 1, I talk about who is he? Where did he go to school? What courses did he take? What did those courses entail? How many hours were spent on neurological disorders? How many hours are spent on pharmaceuticals and side effects? And being a man of that education, in 1980, research came out proving that Librium, diazepam at the time, was highly, highly addictive. This was in the 1980s. 15 years of gathered research, which means, just like the Sackler family and Oxycontin, that means that Librium and the FDA, so the FDA, okay, they're supposed to govern the pharmaceutical companies. They don't oversee the pharmaceutical companies. Do you know the government places that as an honor system? Really? Okay, so 15 years of research, it comes out, which means that the maker of Librium, his name was, we're going through this again. Now, author Arthur Sackler also had a diazepine problem, and they were Quaaludes. But his name was the original creator of Librium was in 1963, and his name was Holegoen. And you know, look at Johnny Depp. He went through benzodiazepine withdrawal. Actually, he still takes benzodiazepine. Now, why do people take benzodiazepines? Because their life has traumatized the hell out of them. So what I was going to say is, in the 80s, the research comes out that these are addictive drugs. When did Jordan Peterson graduate from school? In the 80s. When was he practicing? In the 80s. When was he teaching? Almost up until the early 2000s at Oxford and Harvard University. But in 2016, he didn't know that benzodiazepines and alcohol are two drugs that will kill you, just like fentanyl. And you know what's interesting? Something that he said, but he didn't say it. He said, benzos, this is a quote, I have a very good memory. Benzodiazepines are highly, highly prescribed in this country and throughout North America. And there's a real epidemic and issues with problems with this drug that I thought was relatively safe. And of course, you would think that I would know because of my background and my bachelor degrees and my license of being a psychologist, but you really don't know, because when I was in school, I think we might have spent about 3 hours. And of course, he was sitting there with his legs closed, behavioral science, with his legs closed and his hands like this, legs crossed, hands like this. That's protecting your you know what. If you're open, well, if you're a lady, it's probably not ladylike to sit like Al Pacino in Carlito's Way. However, as a lady, sitting like this, with my arms away, from my hands, This is supposed to these hands are supposed to make you feel and make a person look authoritative. And Donald Trump always sits like this with his vagina hands, and he's right like this. Sometimes I catch myself sitting like this, but it's almost like a prayer or something. So anyways, that was one timeline that didn't matter. And of course he would have Michaela interview him, his daughter. And okay, so here's the flip side. On one side, you could say that yes, Michaela was a good choice because she was there. She tries to be objective, but that's her father. And even when Michaela was talking, if you look at episode 1 and 2, he gives her no time to talk. He's very misogynistic. That poor girl, I don't think she knows who she is. And if you don't know who you are, how do you know what you want? How do you know what to say? You know what an influencer is? An influencer is somebody who says the things that people think that people won't say. Whether you're on the left or the right in the US, a Republican or a Democrat, and I know you had 2 shitty candidates to choose from. But all you youngins don't, okay, I just got to stick with Jordan Peterson. So this Russia bullshit, he went there because he was much more addicted to more than benzodiazepines. You don't go to Russia. You do that for privacy. And Michaela said, yeah, we took you out of the Toronto hospital and they wanted to keep you on, the Abrams theory, where you use diazepam, short-acting, higher dosage benzodiazepines to wean off clonazepam, the long-lasting diazepines. I take clonazepam because I was diagnosed with GAD. I refused to take the antidepressant. I do now. I believe what Candace Owens said. In 2007, I was taking Zopiclone for sleep. The anxiety got so bad for me. I was taking Zopiclone in the day. I'm talking 6 a day, and I would be awake. And you build up a tolerance. Your tolerance goes up, 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 up. So when I went to my doctor and I was honest with him and I said, I've been using these for, I didn't even know at the time what anxiety was. I've been using these things because I can't sleep. I can't eat. I'm shaking all the time. I don't know what's going on. And this particular doctor was away one day. He took me off the Zopiclone because he said I was abusing it. I wasn't abusing it. I was looking for relief. However, when the abuse goes from doctor shopping to doctor shopping, that says something about your character. It really does. Think about it. And as far as I'm concerned, a lot of doctors, psychologists, lawyers. I said on my live yesterday, I had a guy I used to buy grass from, and it wasn't for me because I didn't even smoke grass until I broke my knee. It was for somebody else, and he sold everything under the sun, CM, C, whatever. And you know what? I don't know this person's real name, address, nothing. But I trust him explicitly. He's, money hungry, smart salesman. But anyway, what was my point in that? We used to talk a lot about medication, drugs, and in 2007, I was completely unaware of what anxiety even was. And I saw this other doctor when the doctor who took me off the benzos, I went into her office 2 hours before work because I had just moved from Vancouver to Ontario because my husband and I were having issues, and I left, and he kind of wanted me to leave. So I don't stay where I'm not wanted, but it really was mutual contempt. However, I realize now my contempt wasn't for him. It was for myself not following through with what I knew to be true. So Jordan Peterson's saying that he went off of these benzodiazepines, which turned out to be a really bad idea. You think? I've had doctors I had this psychiatrist in Barrie who really thought there was nothing wrong with me, and there isn't. I just, in my life, and I'm not going to go, I will go through the timeline, because my mother and the vet that was here and my aunt and my uncle and everybody I meet says you need to write a book. I want it to be funny, you know. Richard Pryor was funny, but he used his pain and people laughed at it. And looking back at his stand-up comedy, it was self-deprecation, and he could laugh at himself, and there's nothing wrong with having a sense of humor about yourself. But when it starts to affect your own self-esteem by your own negative thinking, that's where you need to turn it around. So Jordan Peterson was talking about asphyxia or asphyxia. It's a technological name, which just basically means your equilibrium and your detachment is off. And that's because your gamma receptors are used to receiving the benzodiazepine. Now, I'm going to go through the chemical breakdown, how it works in the brain and the body in episode 4, to tell you that him going to Russia was not just for a PR reason, and it wasn't just because he needed that much help. It was also because they were keeping this under the rug. And where he fucked up was when he wasn't transparent about the addiction. Is there a difference between an addiction and a dependency? I don't know. So at any rate, Johnny Depp came off all of those medications slowly but surely and weaned them off. I had doctors listen to this doctor, psychiatrist, who tried to wean me off everything that I took, which were very low doses at the time. But when I had that doctor break my knee in a femur operation, the dose of clonazepam did go up, because sitting in that wheelchair for a year, and then I'll talk about that another time, it just it traumatized me to death. And it's taken me almost 2 years of having this YouTube channel to come together, create a video that people can follow, wherein I'm not traumatized to death. Now, I've not taken clonazepam this morning. I've not taken my antidepressant this morning. I've not taken pain medication this morning, but I will after the video, because it does take the edge off. Actually, I'd probably do a better job if I took all my medication. So I want to do a little experiment. That's episode 3 about Jordan Peterson. I'm going to download it to high voltage, and it will say episode 3 Jordan Peterson. Tomorrow morning, when I come on around the same time, I'm going to take my medication beforehand, and I want you, the viewers, to tell me which episode was easier to follow. Did you leave today with a feeling like you learned something or not? Tomorrow, will you or not? But quickly, Trump. All right. Okay. First of all, I just wanted to say he was put into a coma. That's what they do often. If you've ever watched Nurse Jackie or done research yourself, it's called NEXIUM, I believe. And he was on propofol, and that's what killed Michael Jackson. So he was on potent anti-anxiety medications and antidepressants, and you don't use clonazepam for frickin' sleep. You use Seroquel. It's a non-addictive sleeper, and it's used in high doses for bipolar disorder, which are people that are highly traumatized. They can have every diagnosis under the board. But the more traumatized people are, if they don't come out the other end, they'll usually become addicts and become rotten people. We're born innocent, and it's up to us to maintain that innocence and tell the truth. No medication is good. I agree. But I was at a point where I couldn't function at a job. I went into the doctor. I was shaking. I was explaining to her what was going on with me. And she said, that's anxiety. She said, give me the Zopicone. I don't know why. She knew that I kept my meds in my purse, but I did. And I gave them to her. And she said, give me the Tylenol 3. I gave her the Tylenol 3. And she switched me to clonazepam, and she didn't switch me to Oxycontin or hydromorphone. She switched me to codeine Contin, and Contin, just like hydromorphine Contin, MS Contin, which caused a Sackler family, particularly Richard Sackler, to create Oxycontin, because they knew their MS cotton patent was coming to an end. Okay, so his daughter was also on Oxycontin for invasive foot surgery in 2016. Doctors don't hand that out even in the hospitals. There's just a lot of questions that I have underneath the story and his recovery when I compare it to mine. And what benzodiazepines actually did for me the very first time I took them is I didn't realize when Jordan Peterson talked about 5 accidents or 3 to 5 accidents that happen in a row. I understand that because that happened to me. But the difference with him is he had the money, he had the resources, he had the family support, he had everything. And well, let's talk about my story, which will represent other people's stories. If anybody has a story about benzodiazepines, write into me at LISAROJENKO_1971 at iCloud.com. And I loved it when Michaela said, like, she acted like she knew all of this already. But in the interview with her father, Jordan Peterson, Michaela Peterson said, I couldn't believe all of the mail that I received. It was so cool. People telling me that they were walking in their backyards, couldn't sleep for a year, like all that I learned. You understand what I'm saying? It gives you a feeling of being reattached because anxiety makes you feel unattached. Because you're not comfortable in your own skin. You want to crawl out of it. Your body freezes. That's anxiety. Okay, and it's also a sign of depression. And the doctors don't give out Xanax to sleep anymore. Not even in 2016. So he's full of shit. Episode 4 will go up tomorrow. Thank you. This is scheduled into my morning. This is day 3. And the reason that today is so important is because tomorrow Trump is putting tariffs on Canada. So Candace Owens, Trump, Joe Rogan, the royal grift. will have a fit. Do you know that woman actually said, if you think that Harris should win, then you believe that PDFs should be in charge of the world. Well, okay, Royal Grift. I didn't unsubscribe to her though, because her videos about Meghan and Harry crack me up. But they are just a fucking disgrace. You know why? Because they preach mental health, and they are probably two of the most mentally ill people in the world, and they don't even realize how crazy they are. I don't like that word, but with Meghan and Harry, like, it's beyond crazy. This network of chess games they're involved with, the House of Cards, is going to fall very soon. I am not criticizing Jordan Peterson. This is my opinion because he could have used it as a teaching moment. I'll be back tomorrow on High Voltage Live for the episode 4. And have a really good day.